Hello and welcome everybody to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage and today we're going to be having a look at Bitcoin. Before we jump into the price action, I just want to say thank you for watching. If you are enjoying the content, please smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video, and leave us some feedback down below in the comment section. Always happy to hear from you. In the description, you'll also find links to Discord. Come check it out. It is free to join. Okay, so let's get into the fun stuff here now. And there's a couple of things I wanted to just talk about before we actually go into the counts. So within this, it is getting quite messy up here. So for as long as we hold this zone here of this 23,769 to this 23,320, I am still looking at that potential that we could see that continuation to the upside here within those five-wave structures that we're talking about. However, we need to be aware that we have actually met a minimum requirement for this fifth wave high. So we just also need to be careful of that potential to break down. We can also, be arguing that we're kind of setting up here some ones and twos, and that we could actually be looking for that bigger move to the downside. But at the moment, everything's sort of choppy. So there's nothing that's sort of set in stone at the moment. There's still that potential we could push up a little bit more here. Or alternatively, basically, what I'd be looking for is whether we actually come back down into this zone and retest it, where this becomes an A, a B, and a C to the downside. So that would be looking at something like this, looking for this corrective move to the downside here, where this is becoming an A, a B, and a C. So we can see that that one-to-one of this A wave would actually bring us back down towards this 23,375. So if we do continue to push down here, it is possible we could move down into this zone again with this C wave. The problem is, trying to look at it as a C wave, we'd have to argue that potentially either we're getting some extension within here, where this becomes a 1-2, 1-2, and then we're going to look for rejection sort of back into some of these support zones that we've lost up here towards this 24,400. Or alternatively, we could be looking at this just as a diagonal, where this becomes a 1 into there, we get 2, 3, 4, and then potentially a fifth wave here. So looking at something like this, where this becomes 1, 2, 3, and now effectively we could potentially be getting we could have another leg down here where this becomes an ABC. If we do get that, what I'd be looking for would be potentially looking to target out this 23,763 zone. However, if we cross this high point here of this 24,269, it would invalidate that being another zigzag here. It wouldn't invalidate the potential that we could still come down, but it would invalidate this zigzag potential here. And then we'd be potentially looking for actually a move to the upside. So off of this low here into here, if we do start to move above this 24,536, what I'd be looking for then is that potentially we could have this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a 5, and then we'd be watching this retracement to the downside and seeing if we manage to get that support to come back in around this zone, and then actually look to push up one more time for another wave here. So this could then start another trending move here, or alternatively it could just become a zigzag where we get this as a 5-wave move and then we get a 3-wave move here as well. So this is the problem with where we're currently sitting. There is a lot of options. One of the things that I was having a look at this morning is we can also argue, that potentially there could still be a bigger triangle here, and we have something like this playing out, where actually we can look at this in two ways. We can either treat this as an A wave, this potentially as a B wave into here, C, D, and E, in which case this would argue that this C wave has become a double zigzag, and then this D wave would be looking for a 3-wave structure and an E wave in a 3-wave structure. So as long as we range between this zone here of this 25,250 and this 23,339, we can look for this potential of a triangle here for as long as we hold these lows. Really, this one would now become important if we want to say this is completed at this 23,855. Moving below that would then either mean that we're still within a C wave or the structure is actually no longer valid. But the C wave technically will come all the way down to this A wave here, but not cross it at 23,339. So this is something that I'm keeping an eye out here. It is possible we could see this and just it becomes a bit more range bound here. We could argue that potentially we see something bit different, where actually we come back up to this channel line here, maybe, and retest that for the D. So that'll be an interesting area. That's currently sitting at towards this 24,758 zone, depending on how long it takes us to get up there. But yeah, I mean, this is one of the possibilities that I'm still tracking to see whether we get three-wave structures developing in this range-bound motion. The alternative way we can look at it, if we're looking for this as a 1 and then looking for that wave 2 like we talked about, is that potentially we could see something like this play out, where actually we form this the other way around. Sorry, I've done that the wrong way again. Effectively like this, where this becomes an A, B, C, D, E. So this would be very early in its stages. We only get confirmation once the D wave has formed, but it is something that I'm just monitoring here. If we just see 5-wave structure, sorry, the zigzag to the upside, and then another zigzag like this, basically this could then lead us into a triangle situation where this becomes the A wave, this becomes the B wave, and then we look to push down for a C wave to the downside. So these are still possibilities, and if we did get something like this, effectively what I'd be looking for would be that fifth wave, potentially moving down into this zone here of this 23,216 to this 22,130. If we start to lose this 22,130, it becomes more likely that we've completed up here, and that we're actually looking for that breakdown to the downside. So we need to just keep an eye on this area. If we do start to move down into it, some of the key support areas here, the 618 would actually be a retest of this previous support line here at this 22,765. 50% would be looking towards the top ends of some of these moves. So this is still a possibility to move down here and then still look for that progression to the upside. However, if we do start to lose this 23,130 zone, it becomes less likely that this is actually playing out. Okay, so for the most part, we could still have a triangle in there. I'm going to go over the bullish options we were talking about yesterday, because some of them are still valid, some of them are less likely. So this is one that we were talking about, the potential that we were looking at. This is a wave 1, and then potentially this is a wave 2. So there was two ways we were looking. We're looking at this potentially as a wave 2, which is still viable because we didn't actually cross this 23,840 zone again. So we can still argue that this wave 2 could technically be over here, and then we're forming another 1-2. So this could be looking to set us up for a bigger push. Or alternatively, we look at this as an A, a B, and a C as a flat. If we're looking at this as a diagonal to the downside, that would fit. Then what we'd be actually looking for is still looking for this bigger move to the upside here towards this zone of this 26,973 as confirmation. But it's a bit of a tricky one here. I don't really like the look of it, but if it does start to progress up here, we might get some neater structure developing. We'll have to keep an eye on it. If we do start to see impulsive movements to the upside, and we do manage to cross this 2693, then we'd be looking for that possibility of that additional fourth and a fifth. Depending on where this fourth travels, it could lead to a push up towards this 27,775 to this 27,270 range. Also, an interesting area, if we do extend higher up here, would be the 0.618 of the 123. So this would be also an interesting area, as well as this 0.382 of the entire move down, which would be this 27,339. So that would be some interesting areas that we could see some interaction with if we do move higher up here. Okay, so that's just some of those fifth wave targets there. We were talking, I'm going to go over the bigger potential for upside here first. So for as long as we hold this zone here, which would be this 23,242 to this 22,127, we can still look for this potential that even still we're within a bigger wave 2 here, where this is just becoming a bit more complex, and potentially we could argue we're going to get a flat correction or something in here. We could argue that the wave 2 is actually completed here. If we're going to look at this as a diagonal, and this is an A, a B, and a C, but I don't want to say this too early because this does also have the potential to break down. So we'd want to see it prove itself. Alternatively, like I said, we could be still within this wave 2 and looking to actually come back down into these zones and retest some of the structure down here. Potentially come back and retest these lows. The golden pocket would actually sit at this 22,775 to this 22,646. So that could be an area that we could look to move down to if this is not a completed move here, and we're looking for that upside potential for a bigger move. Though we would need to see this once again prove itself. You know, we'd have to hold this zone and then see this bigger move up towards this 29,876 area. Yeah, so you know, these are all possibilities. At the moment we've got a lot of options. I do think that we could potentially see a little bit more down here, but if we do start to maintain these lows and start to push up higher here again, it could actually be that we're starting to extend out. So the other way that we were looking at this move was basically looking at the possibility of counting this slightly different. So if it's not it hasn't broken any rules, and you know, I just don't really like the look of it. This move here is starting to look much more like a correction to me. If it does start to progress up from this point, we can then start to argue that this count is starting to look better. But for the most part, what we'd be looking for here is actually we've had a diagonal into here, fourth, and then we're actually looking for this fifth wave to the upside still. So we can argue two things. We can argue that we're still within this fourth wave, this fourth is completed here. We treat this as a 5-wave structure into this high, and then we could have just had a corrective move to the downside. So this is still valid because we haven't crossed this 23,840. If we do cross that, then effectively what we'd have to do is move this fourth wave over and look for that potentially to come a little bit lower here, maybe. What we'd have to be looking out for, if we do look to push down one more time, I'd be looking out towards this 1236 to this 0.618. So 1618 area should be this 23,586 to this 23,095. And that would be looking for the possibility that we could be seeing this as an ABC for a fourth wave. But really, once we start to break down too deep here below this fourth, it becomes less likely. We can see a 1382 would actually be aligning with it. So this would kind of tie in with that theory of forming a double top here and then forming a double bottom and then looking to move up. So this is still on the cards. I don't really like the structure though, but it hasn't actually invalidated any rules, so we'll have to see how this plays out. To be honest with you, it has the potential, but we'd need to see a move up past this 26,175 to validate this. And what we want to see at the bottom of this move effectively would be starting to form 5-wave structures, then form a 1-2, then potentially look and form another 1-2, and then actually look to start to progress to the upside. That's what we'd want to see play out here if we're looking for this bullish potential to the upside. Okay, so like I said, you know, we could still see a little bit more upside playing out here, but we need to hold those key levels. And if we just remain range bound, then that triangle option starts to look quite good in the count. I am still looking on the lookout for this. It's not very neat, but for the most part, it is still possible that we could argue we've had a 1, and then this is a 2, and then we could be looking for a deeper corrective structure here. It has gotten quite big, so it's less likely, in my opinion. It probably makes more sense that this would be an A, B, and a C if it does come down and not a 5-wave structure from that point. Potentially, we could argue we could see a 5-wave move play out here, where this becomes an A, B, and then we actually get a C wave as a 5-wave move, as a flat to start this move. But yeah, for them, I'm just keeping an eye on it. If we do move down past this 22232, effectively what we'd be looking for is that continuation to the downside here. The thing is, there wouldn't be much space for this fourth wave, so either this would indicate to me that with the size of this corrective move here, if we want to look at it as an impulsive structure, this would mean that this would have to extend out quite substantially past this 1618, in my opinion, to make it look decent. Otherwise, there's going to be not enough space for this fourth wave to form, and then it would just be disproportionate. So even if we do get a flat correction down into these lows, where we're looking rather towards this zone here of so if we do get a flat down, we can argue that 1-to-1 would only bring us towards this 23,339. So we haven't actually taken this high, so we can't look at the regular flat positions. but sometimes we can still get an extension slightly past this 1-to-1 with a flat correction. If it does, I wouldn't expect it to go too much deeper than this 22,909, and then we'd be looking for that possibility to get a move up again and reject it, and then actually look to move down one more time. But until we actually invalidate this, I'm looking out for that potential of a bigger 5-wave drop, because we were talking about the possibility we could still have a 5th wave to come to the downside. So, you know, these are all things we need to just keep in consideration within the structure. For as long as we hold those key levels that we talked about within this zone, we can still look for that bullish potential. Let me just turn it back on. So as long as we do actually hold these key levels here, we can still look for that potential for continuation to the upside. But really, once we start to break down too deep here, and if we do cross this 22,130 and start to progress deeper here, you know, it becomes less likely, and then we'll have to actually look at this being as completed into this high, and then we'd have to either say that we have a 1-2 and then a 1-2, and then we start to break down for a bigger 5-wave structure. Or obviously by that stage we would have a bit more information to work off of. If you want to look at this as a diagonal, you need to be careful here on the retracement. Effectively, what I'd be looking for is being cautious towards this 24,544 to this 24,945. If we do start to break above this 786, obviously this 854 is also the top of the move, so that would be quite an interesting zone. There is quite a lot of confluence in this area, but basically, if we do start moving past the 786, it becomes quite likely we could be looking for that additional leg to the upside here. So we're going to just have to monitor the move this morning and see how these things play out. Okay, I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video, and leave us some feedback down below. Also in the description you'll find a link to Discord. Come check it out. It is free to join. In the description below you'll also find affiliate links for BYBIT and PrimeXBT. Check them out. They are great exchanges. We use them when we're doing our trading. If you don't have an account already, using the affiliate link does help support the channel, and there are deposit bonuses. More information can be found on the websites through clicking on the links down below. So check them out if you don't have one. Everyone, have a great day. We'll see you in the next one.